All right. And so we're live on a few channels, and I'm just going to get us live in our Art of Email Marketing Facebook group and buy us a couple of seconds here at the beginning of the interview, Eddy, before we dive in.
Yeah, I know the technical, like you have to do the web stream and everything. Yeah, it's not the same anymore. I mean,
yeah, it's clunky right now.
We could definitely talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're good now. So we're streaming on all channels. Awesome. Well, welcome, Eddy. My name's Tellman Knudsen. This is episode 53 of the Tellman Fellman Show. Fellman is in a plane flying to Barcelona.
How dare you?
And Eddy is a fan of the Tellman and Fellman Show, and we have some common friends. I think, Eddy, you said that you first saw the Tellman and Fellman Show when we interviewed Rory, who's a old friend and student of mine that I've known for a long time, and that I've seen popped up. I think you've made some comments on a few of the episodes and stuff, and I made a post the other day asking who wants to be on the show. And you're one of the people that raised your hand and then made yourself available to actually be on the show. So This is awesome. Welcome. I have a cool intro to read here. So brace yourselves, internet mavens and marketing maestros. Episode 53 of the Tellman and Fellman Show is about to bring the heat today with our very special guest, the one, the only, Eddy Miranda. Eddy's a digital dynamo whose career reads like a thrill ride through the upper echelons of marketing mastery. It's quite significant. Starting in 2016, he worked his magic for Fortune 500 companies, fitness icons, and fast-scaling brands, crushing it across design, ads, funnels, and e-commerce. But that was just the warm-up. Because in 2022, Eddy joined forces with the Grant Cardone empire, where he skyrocketed from rookie to digital marketing manager for Cardone's real estate education products in record time. But he didn't stop there. Eddy went on to help major players like Contractor Independence, Brandon Turner, and HL Pro Tools smash revenue goals by streamlining their sales strategies and cranking up conversions. Now, Eddy is zeroed in on high-ticket coaches, delivering jaw-dropping 4x revenue results by pinpointing and crushing their biggest marketing bottlenecks. He's mastered scaling strategies that convert, and he's here to spill the secrets. So if you're ready to take notes from a marketing mastermind who's been in the trenches with the biggest names in the business, don't miss this episode. It's a lot to live up to, Eddy.
Dude, you put me at such a high pedestal. I don't think I'm there yet, but I really appreciate that.
I know, it was cool. So Eddy gave me a bio that was factual, but not nearly as flowery. And so I asked ChatGPT to flower it up for us and make it a little bit more over the top and exciting. And I think it did a great job.
Yeah, baking the cake and everything like that, putting all the ingredients together just to make it rise up, right?
Cool. So, let's see. So Eddy, this is our second Tellman and Fellman Show fan episode. So that's kind of cool. And it's not like you and I go way back or something. I mean, other than a short phone conversation last night, this is really our first interaction, significant interaction together, right?
Yeah, correct.
And so I'm stoked because I've been in the marketing game. Well, I've been in the internet marketing game for 21 years. And then I'm 47 now, and I became an entrepreneur when I was 19. And I don't know how old you are, but I'm sure we'll probably figure that out. But it's always cool to connect with somebody who's kind of in the marketing world with fresher eyes, who's kind of like a little earlier in the process. And well, you know what? Before we get into your whole story, I have a question for you. What do you like? Why do you pay attention to the Tellman and Fellman Show? Why do you like it?
Well, because the thing is, you have a lot of the OGs on here, right? Like when I saw Rory, I saw Anik, I saw Ronald, I saw a whole bunch of older people that were in the game earlier. And the thing is, it's at the end of the day, you guys are the ones that paved the way for us. Right. You guys are the ones that made it possible for us to be able to do what we're doing right now and being able to develop the skills. Right. So the fact that you're doing that and bringing all these OG people onto his platform and just interviewing them and getting to know what drives them, what they're doing. And a lot of times, a lot of strategies that they did before is still the strategies that they do now, and still, in today's world, still being used very well. It's super, super powerful, right? Because we have to, in order for us to go somewhere, we have to know where we came from. And a lot of these OGs have a lot of wealth and have a lot of knowledge that we should take on. And like a great example of this is like, somebody like Dan Kennedy. I mean, he's been an OG forever. His copywriting skills have been around forever.
Right.
And you still utilize his books till today for stuff that we're doing today, right? So again, it's always good to learn from wisdom from the people that have been in the trenches way before I even got into marketing. I mean, I did start with like design and web development in the 2000s. But when I got into digital marketing was like 2019, 2020. And I would consider myself a late bloomer because I never thought that marketing was prevalent. I didn't think sales were prevalent. I was such a creative person, right? But that all that was happening. I even remember my cousin, it was like 1998, 1999. He was telling me, "Oh, I'm doing landing pages and funnels." And I'm like, dude, what is that?
Right.
But that's been happening for years. And it's not like it just started because of ClickFunnels or GHL.
Hold on. So how old are you?
I'm actually 42.
Oh, cool. Okay, so you're not like you look pretty young. So
oh, thank you.
So you're 42, but you've only been in the marketing game for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, cool. And so let's go back before you got into marketing. Like, what were you doing with your like life and career?
Yeah,
just give me the overview. Like, what exactly were you up to?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, like, unlike you started when you were 19 in like this whole digital marketing.
No. I started I started a salsa company out of my dorm room in college selling.
Well, you were
salsa, but there were
but you were an entrepreneur, right? Like,
I discovered that I was an entrepreneur when I was in college. Yeah.
So like I didn't have that. Like I partied until I was like 25.
Yeah.
But so I knew I wanted to do something, but I just didn't have a direction or an entrepreneur drive at that moment. But I knew I didn't want to work for somebody else.
Yeah.
But I was so stuck in the partying, going to clubs here in Miami, going to raves, all that kind of stuff. But
so did you grow up in Miami or did you move to Miami? Where'd you grow up?
No, I born and raised. I lived in the same house for like about 23 years, 23 years.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've been living in Miami. There's actually one stint that me and my then girlfriend, she's now my wife, moved to California for a project, and we could get into that. It was a bodybuilding project on social media that I built, and we moved there for like 10 months, and then we're like, man, it's really expensive. Let's move back. We had our kid, and we're like, we don't have anybody to help us. Let's just move back to Miami. But yeah, pretty much I've lived in Miami my entire life.
Sweet. I have a few friends in Miami. I have a very old friend who's a total badass named Kerry Sullivan, who lives in Miami. And Kerry was like a pro triathlete for 10 years. And he's also a sales super ninja. Like the guy can sell and he runs a sales team and lives in Miami. I've known him. We should get him on the show because we've done so many projects over the years, but I met him actually getting trained in NLP by Dr. Richard Bandler, also at a conference in Florida.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, do you want me to go back to like my starts or like?
Yeah. So you grew up in Miami, and you were partying until 25, trying to find some direction.
Yeah, and around that time when I was partying, since I was in the club scene, I was actually a graphic designer. So I was working with a lot of print shops here in Miami, doing club flyers, doing flyers for brick and mortar stores, all that stuff. So I learned my chops to that. And then during I would say like almost like the I guess our time of a depression, which was like 2008. I did something very bold, and I had my first entrepreneur stride, which is like, let me start a print, web development, and graphic design company. Didn't do very well, but what I did learn during that time was like how to be able to build websites, design them, code them, not using WordPress. So I learned on how to build websites with HTML and CSS.
And this is just like local businesses that were hiring you to build websites, and you were building them what they wanted.
Yeah, I was very local at the time. Friends, referrals, things like that.
What year is this?
This was 2008, 2009.
Cool.
I was literally using Craigslist in order to get clients. Like that's
that's often how it starts.
That was like back in the day. So I did that, and of course, like I really couldn't like get it to take off. I was really struggling because of just like how the economy was at that time.
Right.
And then in 2011, I had just finished losing my job. It was the beginning of the year, and I was already volunteering at a church here locally, doing some graphic design and, lighting for the church and everything like that. And they hired me, and I started being one of their main graphic designers for the church, and I ended up becoming their lighting director for all the production now. So I literally built the entire lighting department for that church in like 5 years. To the point that like we were working with bands like Hillsong United. We were working with Steven Crowder. We were working with like a whole bunch of different bands. And I started building up my chops because I used to be a DJ since I was in the club scene. I was like, man, this makes a perfect match. I love music. Let me like make it like look really nice. So was doing that for quite a few years. But while I was working there, I was like, like I don't make enough working out of church. Like I was making like maybe $35,000 a year. It's like living in efficiencies. I was ready. Like I got to do something about this.
Right.
So I started a little side project called Deem Design Studios, and it so happened that
called what design studios?
It was called Deem Design Studios.
Deem.
And the reason why I chose Deem was because since I was in the church and I was a Christian, I'm like, I was thinking about redeemed, but then you deem it to be so. So I'm like, okay, like that's my creative process. Like I deem it to be so.
Yeah.
So that's how I came up with that name.
Cool.
And because I was in bodybuilding and like I started making, a lot of connections that way. That's how I ended up getting like a lot of fitness influencers. I worked for a lot of fitness brands, like fitness equipment, fitness supplements companies. Things like that. So like a couple of the reputable names were like, RSP Nutrition. I worked with Nicole Mejia. She used to be like
So at that point, what were you doing for these guys?
Oh, so at that point, what I was doing is I was doing a lot of graphic design.
Yeah.
So social media posts for their Instagrams, because that's how they were getting business. I was doing a lot of product design, product packaging, website designs on WordPress and WooCommerce and Shopify.
You're really visual. You're like a really visual dude.
Yeah, right? super visual. Like I'm very creative, and I know when things look good. So like that's where like I was heading in that. And at the time, like I was even thinking, I'm like, design is where it's at. Design is where you make money.
Right.
And the funny enough thing, like what I said, I was getting into bodybuilding, and I started a project because I saw there was a need. But once I really started getting into that industry, I was like, man, people have the crappiest designs, but they're making millions. Like, how is this happening?
Why is this? No,
yeah,
why? Believe me.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah. Like why are these people making so much money? I'm like, my design outbeats them, but it's like
ugly ass websites,
ugly ass websites, ugly ass Instagram posts, and I'm like, how is this happening? Right. Later on, I realized it was more the messaging and how they offered things than it was the actual design work and the branding.
Right.
So when I was doing that for those companies, I was like helping them out in all those aspects, even to email marketing and setting up their emails lists and everything like that. So I learned a lot during that process. And then in the same time, since I was competing, we kind of like touched on this a little bit early because we're both like fitness people.
Yeah.
I was in bodybuilding. I was in competition, and then I noticed that there was a need. The entire professional league was kind of like ruled by only a couple of different news outlets, but the news outlets were only there to take pictures, and they kind of did interviews, but they really didn't showcase like the division that I was like in. And that division was like the men's physique, which is the guys that wear the board shorts, and stuff like that. They really don't show their legs, even though they still do work out their legs. I started noticing that, so I started a Instagram page called Men's Physique News. And I started that, and instantly I started seeing people like gravitating toward it. Like, and I started working it, started being consistent with it on top of me doing everything else. I knew pros, but none of the pros knew who was running it. Like it was literally funny. I was inside of one of my buddies' houses. He was a professional men's physique competitor. He was getting ready for a show. He's like, man, look at this guy, man. This guy's doing such a good job. And like he had no clue it was me that was doing that page.
And so would you just take photos at events, or would you take photos off the internet and repost them on the Instagram, or what, or both? Or
good question. So it was basically a mixture of a bunch of different things. What I did was that I would see who was competing at a specific show. I would look them up and I'll be like, okay, this guy's competing. He just finished posting this picture. I'll screen capture it, put my logo marks on it, but I would do it ethically, right? Because I know a lot of people like they'll take the picture, just put the logo marks, pretend that it's yours. I would tag all the athletes. I would tag whoever's involved.
Yeah. So you make sure that like anybody that was interested could easily, go back and follow them or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. And then when it came to the events at the beginning, I wasn't going to these professional events. I didn't have access to them. So I used a lot of hashtags. So I'm like, hey, hashtags of the events. And like if somebody put a picture of, what would be considered the first call out, the first 5 guys that they considered to be the top 5 in the competition and the morning judging, I will grab that picture, post it up, tag whoever I got it from, everything like that. And that's how I kind of...
You just tagged and hashtagged everybody that was involved in the picture, even with the photographer as well as...
Yep. Everybody,
or even the person that was there,
yep.
Whether they were like a photographer or not, and the people being photographed, so that everybody was like respected, like,
exactly.
Like you were respectful and like went out of your way to give credit where credit is due. Like, great, this is awesome. I really like what I really like about this part of the story is how it takes your background in graphic design and your clear visual orientation, right, as a creative and with art, and your interest in bodybuilding, and ties it into being an entrepreneur, like in a really cool way. Like, this is a really interesting thing. So you started this Instagram.
It was a really, really fun project. Like, honestly, like I found a lot of joy in that project. Even though I still had my clients and doing the design work and everything like that, like I really gravitated towards that. It got to the point that like I made relationships with all these bodybuilders. Like they were like, hey, feature me and this and that. It's like, because it became a place that people wanted to be on. And
it's cool too, because it wasn't you, like, even though you were into bodybuilding, it wasn't you focused on you.
Correct.
It was you focused on the community.
Correct. And I think, and that's where I really got my first glance about community. It's like, that was a huge opening eye for me. Right. And when, as I progressed forward, I'm like, I still remain faceless on the actual platform. Like nobody knew who it was. So I started it in March of 2016. In October of 2016, which was the Mr. Olympia, I decided to go with my friend, the one that I told you that didn't know I was running the page.
Oh, he still didn't know, even when you went?
No, he knew by that point. There's only a few people that knew. And we were there. We were actually covering the show. I snuck in order to cover it because I didn't have a ticket in order to get it. Filmed it, and it became so popular that the guys in the front seat had to come back to me and tell me to stop streaming. So I streamed on, I think, Facebook, and I got 35,000 likes on that Facebook page at that time.
Because you were like the only one live streaming. Everybody else was taking Snapchat, because nobody else live streams because people are weird, like, or whatever. But
exactly. And then
it was allowed for you to live stream. Why did they have to tell you to stop live streaming? Because you were taking over the feed from theirs, or what?
Probably because it became so big that they were like, yeah, we need to stop. Like, technically, you're not supposed to take footage. So I took a chance, but it became so big that everybody started noticing, and they're like, yeah, shut you down. Like,
wait. Hold on. Do you mean that they forced you to stop live streaming while you were in the middle of the stream, or that later on you had to stop live streaming?
No, in the middle of the stream.
They shut you down. Yeah. Okay.
They shut me down quick. So then what I did is, like, I told everybody, hey, go to my Instagram, and everybody started following me there, because then I started posting up everything. And the funny thing is like, when that happened, I was like, I don't know if I should just start walking up to the bodybuilders and just start saying that I'm the one that runs it. And my friend's wife, which was competing on stage, was like, yeah, I think you should start doing it. So I started walking around the expo, and I start seeing all the guys that I've posted. I'm like, hey, what's going on, bro? I'm Eddy from Men's Physique News. They're like, you're what? From where? I'm like, yeah, Eddy from Men's Physique News. They're like, oh my God, dude, thank you so much. I'm like, hold on, bro. Hold on. This is kind of a weird situation here, because like, you're geeking out over me when I should be geeking out over you. It's the other way around.
Right.
But that's where I really got the first glance that everybody was actually for what I was doing. They were so thankful that I was bringing so much light to the division, and how I was portraying it. So it was just a really, really good response. And then, ever since then, I was like, like, what should we do? Like, where should we go? So then I started working with athletes, started filming them, started doing like highlights, interviewing them, started doing shows, doing podcasts, things like that. And everything really, really started to take off. Started getting coached by some of the best in the industry. Started getting to know the best coaches, started getting in with all the competitions, got invited to the Arnold Classic in order to cover, got invited to the Olympia to get covered, and went to New York Pros in order to cover them.
Hold on, slow down. So this is so important, dude. Like, this goes over the head of everyone. And I don't know if you like, I guess maybe you stumbled into it, or maybe it's just because of who you are as a person, but like this is so important. It's very relevant to many of the conversations I've been having, some of the personal struggles I've been having in my own business. Like, what you did here is you took an area that you have passion or topic about, bodybuilding, and you created a community-driven, collaborative Instagram page and Facebook page, I assume, by the way you're talking?
Yeah, I shifted more to YouTube after the Facebook page. So but
as you got it started, there was an Instagram page, a Facebook page, and then ultimately a YouTube, right? So you set for men's, what was it called?
Men's Physique, which is
Men's Physique, right? And instead of you making the move where you're like, okay, well, I'm going to make this all about me, and like, I'm going to start posing and tell everybody why they should get a better physique and show off and buy stuff from me, buy my supplements and ebooks or whatever, because I'm a man and I'm in shape and I'm selling my stuff. Instead of doing that move, which is where most people would start and fail, right? But like, just make it all about them. You took yourself out of the equation entirely. You didn't use pictures of these guys as a Trojan horse just to like have them, piggyback on their fame in order for you to get customers, or order for people to buy your supplement or some crap like that. You started the equivalent of a magazine, of a showcase for people in the industry. And you did a better job of like promoting it in a non-sleazy way, in a cool way. And I guess your artistic talents and vision and ability to take good photos and edit them and all this kind of things, is a huge factor in all of this. But like, the one shift, from making it about you to making it about them from the start, and just doing a really good job of creating a publication, social media channel, it's all the same, that makes the people in the community look good to all the other people in the community, but it basically makes the celebrities look good to all the fans, right? And like, it's great, because when people talk about themselves, or they're trying to promote their own thing, they're like, hey, I'm Tellman, I'm smart. I've been doing this for 20 years. You should listen to me and not all these other guys because this reason and that reason, and buy my stuff. I think I'm great, and you should think I'm great too, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like, it's a hard sell, and it feels weird to promote yourself in this way. But it's kind of where we're stuck a lot of the time. And so when you can have somebody else telling the world how great you are, that's like the best. You know,
Yeah.
it's for everybody. And so you set up a platform where you could tell the world how great all the other people in the industry are. And at least as you got it started, you weren't even taking credit for it directly. You know, so like really cool, really cool.
No, and I had a vision for it. The vision was, you know, on that particular page, and I did, you know, create other pages for other divisions, but this is the one that just really caught fire.
Yeah.
The the reason why I did it was for a couple of things. One of the reasons is because I knew the men's physique division wasn't getting the limelight.
Right.
What ends up happening, and when you go to these shows, it's like you'll go to a bodybuilding show, you'll probably see about 10, 15 bodybuilders, like the
I've
big
never
boys.
been to a bodybuilding show. It's not my thing. I have no idea, you know.
So you'll see like about like maybe 10, 15 big guys like on a stage, and especially on a local show. But when you see men's physique, you're going to see like 150 guys, like to the point that
wow.
they'll chop up everybody into a weight and now I'm sorry, a height, but now they're actually doing weight. They added that new requirement, but back then it was just height. And we'll have about 6 different classes, and each of those classes will have anywhere from like 10 to 20 people inside of it. And so you just think about it. The entry fee to get into that competition is like $250, right? Plus the tanning, plus so like these shows are making all this money off of the men's physique division, not the bodybuilders. And even they're making even money from what's for the women is called bikini at the time, because that was just as big as men's physique. So when you kind of look at it and you're looking at all these other news channels, especially the one that's owned by the league, they would never highlight these guys enough. And they're the ones bringing in.
They're all small fries in comparison to the superstars. So they're like micro celebrities, but they're also micro celebrities that are spending hours every day working their ass off, changing their nutrition, like putting everything they have into it. And then obviously they have some degree of desire to be on stage and to be spotlighted and to be seen. Right. Like they or they wouldn't be in that sport.
No, exactly. So
performance aspect, and there's that vanity aspect to bodybuilding that's very clear. And so if you came in and then you're suddenly giving them the attention that they want, but nobody else is giving them, it's just like, it's perfect. You know,
absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then the other reason that I did it was because I wanted to show the actual league's newspaper or news channel that, hey, there's a better way to do this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and you know, I did, and I would say like at the end of it, by the time that I sold that business, I would say that I accomplished both of those things, because ever since then, men's physique competitors have been highlighted even more now. And what ends up happening is like everything that I did when I was starting that page and continued to run that page, the main publication started doing everything exactly the same way that I was doing it.
Right.
So they started doing the results right away. They started doing, you know, all the things. So like I accomplished my goal. I mean, I still wish that I would still be doing it, but I accomplished my goal of what I wanted to set with that, which was really, really awesome. So then, you know, we were able to do all that stuff, you know, do the publication, you know, highlight the athletes, you know, do all the videos, everything like that. Became really, really big. But then in 2020, I was kind of like, I already kind of knew how, once I was already in the industry, I was already kind of like, what do I do? Because, you know, if you know anything about bodybuilding, you know, it's a very subjective sport. And subjectiveness could be, I could pick this guy or I could pick that guy. Which one do I like the most versus who really looks best on stage?
Yeah, there are a lot of factors in that.
There's a lot of factors. So like I heard a lot of horror stories from like a lot of the pro competitors. They're like, man, you know, they told me to come back and I lost my dad through the process and I still stepped on stage and they told me that I was supposed to be first, but because I already had my road to the Olympia, they gave it to somebody else. And, you know, so like, I just kept on hearing these stories. So like, it really like dawned on me. I'm like, you know, like this is an awesome industry to be in, but it's a very, how can I say, a facaded industry because it's very political and you have to be very good with politics in order to get where you need to. For that, I might as well just join politics and start running for Senate or something like that, you know? So in 2020, like when COVID came around, I had just finished, you know, putting my all to the Arnold Classic that was happening in April of that year, right before everything got shut down. And then everything came to a halt. No gyms, no nothing. I couldn't cover anything. And I'm like, you know, I'm really at a deciding factor here. I even lost all my clients from my agency as well. So I went like clearly down to zero.
Everybody was freaking out, not spending money and whatever.
Exactly. But the cool thing is like, you know, when I was doing Men's Physique News, we moved to California. Me and my wife moved to California in 2018, which I kind of, you know, touched on a little bit earlier. And I learned a lot during that process. But then when we came back, I came back with no money. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do something different this time. So in 2019, I invested a lot of time into, you know, drop shipping. So I started learning about drop shipping. That's how I got
Hold on. Did the Men's Physique social channels just dry up and die?
No, they didn't. I just didn't put as much effort as I did in 2019 as I did in the previous years.
Yeah. And did you still own them or did you sell it or did it?
I sold it in December of 2020.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
So in 2019, like I after that whole thing, I lost all this money. I ventured to go there into California and then come back. That's where I was really like kind of like iffy about the whole, you know, continuing this with how I was seeing the industry going.
Yeah.
So I ended up dedicating 2019 to learning something new. I'm like, let me get into marketing. Like, let me actually get into that. So I was like, man, let me start doing drop shipping. Drop shipping's hot right now. So that helped me learn on how to set up ads, how to run ads, learn how to run ads on my own dime. And then while we were in California, my wife ended up getting into network marketing. That was something that she was like, I'm going to get into it again. So she decided to get into Herbalife. I'm like not even going to look at you because you got into that. But you know, I wanted to help her. So I actually started looking around, started looking at YouTube videos and things like that. I'm like, how can I do network marketing differently in this time that I'm trying to learn these new skills? And I actually landed onto Stephen J. Larson, and he was working for a network marketing company, but he was also just finished coming off of Russell Brunson, and he was starting his own movement and things like that. And I'm like, man, if he could do this thing with funnels, like I would definitely love to be able to bring this into the network marketing arena.
So I probably should know Peter Larson, but I don't know him. Well, what's his main website or what's his main thing?
Capitalist Pigs. He actually has. He's actually stepped on stage quite a few times on ClickFunnels. He was Russell Brunson's like funnel builder for like 2 or 3 years.
Oh, maybe I've seen him and I just don't know. All right, cool. Well, Peter, I'll look him up. Yep.
No, Stephen Larson.
Stephen Larson. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, you know, I just want to take a different direction with this network marketing game because everybody's like, oh, the product, this and that. I'm like, dude, it's totally the wrong way of like looking at network marketing. Because if you look at these bigger people, they have systems, they're promoting themselves and everything like that. So, you know, I tried to help her with that. So I learned all those skills in 2019, then going to 2020, you know, whole COVID thing. So I made that pivot into network marketing, helping my wife.
Okay. So let's pause there for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So you were playing around with drop shipping.
Mm-hmm.
What were you selling?
Man, I was selling a case for a Game Boy case for like the iPhones. I was selling lamps. I was selling a whole bunch of different things. I was trying to see what worked and what didn't. The lamp worked for me. The Game Boy case for the iPhone worked really, really well for me. But I just didn't have the skills enough in order to see how I could actually scale this or where I could kind of take it to.
Yeah. Okay. So you're just trying to do a bunch of different drop shipping, and you found some things that worked a little bit, but you didn't have like the knowledge or business experience to really scale drop shipping or e-com. And so
exactly.
in the meantime, your wife's into Herbalife. And these days, what's the primary thing that what's the number one product that sells in Herbalife these days?
Man, I don't even know, but she still drinks the tea and aloe that comes from there. So that's like
All right.
the main
Well, I
thing.
mean, but when you were trying to help her sell Herbalife, were you trying to sell the opportunity or were you trying to sell a particular product?
The thing is like from that, I knew very, very quickly it's getting people into the opportunity. So that's what I was helping her focus on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because like you could sell as much as you want, and I was really able to see that business model for what it was worth. And in order for you to really make money in that business model, you have to open up your own shake, shake store and everything like the nutrition shop in order for you to be able to do it. If you weren't going to be building a team. But we got paired up with like some pretty knowledgeable people, and we started learning that it was the team that you had to build in order for you to make it big. Because if you push the team to sell, then you reap the rewards off of that. So basically, when the pandemic happened, we had just finished switching companies. We switched to a company called Mona or Monet, however you want to pronounce it. And it was skincare, shampoo, detergent, all that kind of stuff. And that's where I kind of took like my experience of the ads and the funnel building and everything like that, and including even my experience from when I was doing Men's Physique News about branding and branding people and everything like that, and start coaching these people on how to be able to do it. And we were very successful during that time of building the team and starting to get the sales. And I started doing my own coaching programs and helping these people. So I did that for about maybe about like 2 years. Going into like 2022. And then in 2022, with all my skill sets and everything like that, I knew a lot of real estate people in the area of Miami. I mean, like you throw a rock, you hit a real estate agent, here in Miami. But I knew a lot of them, and a lot of them were actually in Grant Cardone's circle because he's actually here locally.
Right. Oh yeah, that's true. Yep.
So basically one of my friends, was good friends with Grant's right-hand man, Jared. His wife was doing an event, and I go to my wife, I'm like, hey, just go to the event, do this, whatever. She goes and she starts becoming friends with her. And they start talking about me. It's like, hey, maybe he should get a job over there. So I'm like, if I was going to break my work at home, my entrepreneur life for two people, it was going to be one of two people. One's going to be Russell Brunson, and I would fly to Boise and live there in order to work with him. And the other one was actually Grant Cardone, because he was actually in my backyard. Yep. And I've been to his office for an event or two and stuff like that. I'm like, it would be pretty cool to like learn some sales, right? And was able to get in contact with Jared, put in a couple applications. They met with me and they're like, dude, you already have my background from this point in the story. Like, you are well versed in everything. You've already worked with a lot of the people that we've actually had influence with. We would love to be able to get you in the office. And at that point, there really wasn't like a dedicated opening, but they're like, we just need to get you in here. So they hired me as a creative ad specialist. And so I was on the traffic team. I was working with a lot of guys they come from like the ad skills arena. A lot of them came from like Agora and stuff like that. So these were like pretty reputable, media buyers that I was working with.
How many employees in the company at the time that you were there?
So Cardone Enterprises, I think, had like 120 employees at the time. Yep. About 30 or 40 of them were inside the marketing department alone. So I was working with all these guys, and I'm like, the first day I was there, I was a nervous wreck. But I'm like, dude, I've never worked for somebody this big. I've never been in a room with like such talent. I mean, I'm talking to a funnel builder that worked with Russell on his 2-step order form. Yeah. I'm talking to Jared that is the right-hand man of Grant. I'm working with these media buyers that are coming from Agora. I'm like right. Starstruck, Right. I'm like, what dent can I actually make in this place? And literally on day 3, I opened up my mouth for something, and they're like, dude, just start doing it. And one of the things I started working on was like, the traffic team had a hard time keeping track of all the creatives. So I'm like, why don't we just do Monday boards and start doing our tasks and start launching our campaigns through there? The office got wind of it, and then I started talking to every single department on how to collaborate the entire department together on launches and campaigns. So that was like pretty cool. So then people started noticing my skill set. I started going into the funnels, and so I'm like, hey, we should be doing this. We should be updating them. We should, because I've already done so many different kinds of funnels. So I'm like, I knew where the weaknesses were. I'm like, why don't we, do this to this book funnel? Why are we running ads in this way? Why, so I spoke up, and I spoke up so much that, like, on I guess, like, just being placed there, everybody in the office was like, hey, Eddy, I want you to start launching the ads. I'm like, yeah, but we have a head of marketing. Like, well, yeah, start launching the ads, start getting it done, because I was already in office. So technically I became the manager for the media buyers at that point, and helping them launch campaigns and getting the structures, doing the SOPs for the launches and everything like that. Start opening up my mouth about the funnels, and they're like, hey, Eddy, why don't you just start building the funnels and start doing this funnel and that funnel? So, by, I think, month 4, we had a meeting inside the office, and everybody was like, hey, we're going to be breaking up everything into silos. And, this real estate silo, we're thinking about giving it to Eddy. And I was like, dude, like, what? So they were already, like, considering me as a digital marketing manager for that silo. So I went in there, I rebuilt his real estate book funnel, reworked the ads for his webinar, and we got it profitable, and we started doing gangbusters numbers on it, and everything like that. And then they started seeing that I had production background and everything like that I had from the church, and they're like, hey, why don't you do the live events? Why don't you do the live interactives and everything like that? Yeah. So basically, I was pretty much in line to be like a secondary main marketing manager inside of the office, and that was in a span of like 6 to 7 months of me being there.
Wow.
Which was incredible. So I personally, because of things going on at home, I had to try to see if I could get another job so I could work remote, so I could help with my family at the house, because I mean, it is a lot of hours. Like, if you work inside his office, it's I left my house at 7 o'clock in the morning, got back home at 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Saw my 2 young boys, for maybe 45 minutes before they went to bed.
How old were they at this point?
One was 3, the other one was 1.5 years.
Yeah, so super young, right? Like, yeah, that's an important time if you can be around, yeah.
And the thing is, like, at that time, like, my boys had to go through a bunch of surgeries and things like that, and
right.
They had a couple of development issues as far as like speech and stuff like that. So I was very concerned about that, and I'm like, I couldn't get the time in order to it, or I tried to really spread out my time to make sure that I wasn't how can I say, taking advantage of it, right?
Right.
So, I made the conscious choice, and I had an opportunity to start working, with Contractor Independence. They hired me, and I'm like, hey, Jared, this is what happened. He's like, man, go do it. It is what it is, bro. I wish you the best. And started working with Contractor Independence from a remote position. And then from there, I started working more in depth with like sales team. Even though I was working in Grant's office, we weren't feeding the sales team leads. Like, it wasn't like, hey, like a book a call to get, everybody on the sales team to sell something. They were more of a cold caller kind of a style inside of that office. So then I started working in Contract Independence and started, helping them with the book of calls, helping them with everything, help them.
I'm not familiar with Contractor Independence. What's their basic deal?
Yeah, so basically what they are is they're an SEO maps agency. They help with remodelers, plumbers, roofers, and HVAC people. And basically they just help you rank on Google Maps so that when people search you, you have a better chance in order to be seen by them.
Yeah, no, I have a couple of guys that used to work with me in my company, kind of in the higher levels, started New Hampshire strategic marketing, and they do similar work in New Hampshire with local businesses, helping them rank, and they basically get their phones to ring, right? And generate leads online for these types of businesses also. So cool.
Yeah. And then from there, started doing the same thing with like, HR Pro Tools. And I also ended up working with another real estate mogul, Brandon Turner, as well. And helping them with their sales process, helping them with their products, their front end marketing, and everything like that, based off of all the skill sets that I've built throughout the years.
Cool. And so that, I guess, leads you to where you're at today, right? And so yeah, so right now, I mean, if you're just to describe like what you do right now and who you do it for, like who's your ideal client in a nutshell, and what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my ideal client is high ticket coaches, and I could also work with SaaS companies as well. But basically, for me, I think where my superpower really is a strong suit is being able to look at marketing holistically, right? With my experience with the ads, my experience with funnel building and conversions and everything like that, I know how to be able to look at a marketing process and figure out where the bottlenecks are, where the gaps are, and fix that, or even re-engineer the entire marketing strategy so it becomes more profitable, or get better clients coming in through their funnels and through their systems so that they can make more revenue on the back end. And that's like what I've done with like Grant. Like I looked at the entire real estate silo. I'm like, what can we do in order to make this better? Fix the book funnel, re-engineered how the traffic was going to from one funnel to another. Did the exact same thing with Brandon Turner, built them a new self-liquidating offer, re-engineered their video sales letter funnel, started getting amazing results with that. Same thing with HR Pro Tools.
Now, are you a copywriter, or do you always have a different copywriter on the team to write the copy, and you're more of a strategist, or where do you land in that?
Good question. I'm more of a strategist. I'm not the best copywriter, and if he's ever seen me write on a Messenger, I'll fumble my words all the time. So I'm not the best copywriter, but I can take a look at copy and know where it needs to be tweaked and where it needs to be improved. So yeah, as far as like what I do is more of a strategy aspect, but I'm also an executioner as well. Like I'll do the campaigns and I'll launch them. I'll look at the numbers and I'll see what works and what isn't, and I'll make the adjustments based off of that.
Cool. And so, do you take new clients right now?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm open for new clients right now. I'm basically doing that. It's I would almost consider it almost like a fractional CMO, where I holistically look at the marketing and try to improve your marketing strategies.
Cool. And at this stage, who's your ideal client?
Yeah. So basically, you have to have a high ticket, right? Anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 as far as what you're selling. And then you also have to have an offer that is already working, but you want to be able to improve on it in order to get the most juice out of it. So your revenue has to be anywhere from 5 to 10 million per year. So I could really put basically the rocket fuel onto your marketing in order for you to be able to take off to wanting to be a $50 million a year type of company.
Cool. And you gave me a link earlier where people could do I think a marketing audit with you. What's the deal? What are you offering? So folks, if you're inspired and excited by this conversation with Eddy and you want to work with him and you're in the zone of his type of ideal client, then this might be a really cool thing for you. So yeah, what are you offering here, Eddy?
Yeah. So right now, what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to provide as much free value to people as possible. So I'm offering a 30-minute audit where I'll dive into your ads, see how your ads are doing, be able to dissect and give you ideas of how you could kind of improve what's going on your meta ads or your X ads or whatever. But I'll also look on your funnel side as well to see maybe a lot of times it's optimization that you need to do and how the landing page needs to be fixed. So it could be the offer or how you're presenting things, right? So I'll be able to dissect both of those things for you so that you can start getting better results off the bat. And that's just for me, just wanting to help you guys out as much as possible and provide us free value. And I know that what I have to bring to the table and what I would see and what's kind of going on in your marketing strategies, I definitely know that I could move the needle for you when it comes down to it.
Cool. So you guys can, the link is up on the screen. It's a Calendly link, calendly.com/Deem Marketing, DEEMMARKETING.com or marketing/audit. So calendly.com/Deem Marketing/audit. Dude, you should get something real simple like talktoeddy.com and redirect that, because like
that would be cool.
That would be a good one. It's probably available. Something like that. So where are you? So those are the types of clients you're working with right now. But when you think 1, 2, 3 years into the future, like where are you going with your business? What are you working toward right now? Where do you hope things to evolve to in the future?
Well, I mean, one of the things is like I really love coaching. I actually did do that for quite a few months, and I actually did do that during network marketing. But I love coaching. I love sharing with people what I know and what I do in order for those people to get results and to put into action and see their face light up, right? Because I've coached a lot of people and like, hey, Eddie, that strategy that you told me, well, look, I got this off of it. And that brings such joy to me. So I love coaching people. So what I want to be able to do in the future is that I want to be able to transition into more of a coaching monthly recurring kind of a model,
Right.
but also with a, that would be like a group coaching model, but then, and build that up, almost like kind of like how Cole Gordon has his coaching model, right? Like, he has his account managers, he has his specialists, and they help everybody all around in order to achieve a goal. I want to be able to head in that direction, but I also want to be able to do the one-on-ones as well for those very, high ticket personal clients. And of course, still be able to do some done for you stuff. So basically, a very nice, how can I say, value ladder structured kind of coaching, consulting, done for you kind of business. And being able to help as many people as possible to get the results. And I'm all about getting people results. I don't like people that, hey, do this, do that, and like, oh, well, maybe we should just done this, and or they give them a solution that's not really the solution to their problem, right? And I've seen that so many times that, hey, this is kind of happening with my offer. Oh, well, just fix your meta ads and do this. And I'm like, no, that's not the problem that they really had. And I really like solving, whether it's on the ad side, on the funnel side, on the system side, whatever it is. Like, I really want to drill down in what that problem really is for that person and help them solve it.
Cool. So you want to, basically what you're saying is you want to move it from working with clients one-on-one into more of a one-to-many group coaching option. Yeah. And so why haven't you done that already? What's preventing that from happening, or where are you stuck or blocked or working toward? Like what's missing in your life or in your business at this stage in order to pull that off?
That's a really, really good question, because like I get asked that all the time. It's like, hey, why haven't you done it already? Like, why haven't you gone and being able to execute that yet? And the thing is that like, especially since like I was working with Grant, I didn't have a huge presence on social media. I didn't promote that I was working there. I didn't promote like a lot of stuff that I was doing. And that even happened to a lot of the other companies I was working with. Like I didn't promote myself. I didn't do any of that stuff, even though I've done that before when I was in bodybuilding. So for me, it's like I've just finished coming off of working with all these businesses, and I've been, in the background.
Yeah, it hasn't been about you. It's been about them.
Exactly. Okay. So now what I'm doing is like I'm trying to focus more on me, getting on shows like this and doing my own podcasts and things like that, and start building that community again. So then I can actually start moving into that direction. Because if honestly, if I would do it right now, I'd be like, hey, I got a program. I'm like, I'm not going to get that many people going in there. So I need to build my personal brand and make those connections and build that community before I'd be like, hey guys, I'm ready. I have this thing, come jump on board, and we're ready to launch, Right.
No, and it's a different move in many different ways. One of the biggest things is you're going to be talking about yourself instead of talking about other people, yep. which is different, right? And it can be yep. uncomfortable, right? Yep. So you mentioned before we went live that you were working on this new podcast. What's your new podcast called?
Yeah, so my new podcast is called In the Depths. And I take it because I kind of named that because it's, even though it's going to be a marketing business style podcast, it's what I really want to do is be able to get into the deep understanding on what made that person successful, mm-hmm. right? Because we have like all these strategies, we have like all these methods that we do. And on any given podcast, you talk about that. And that's like the main focal point. Like, hey, I got results this way for doing this and that. Okay, cool. But one thing I've learned along the way is like, you look at like the Alex Hormozis and the Russell Brunsons and all this stuff, and you see where they're at in the limelight. but how were they in the struggle points of getting up there, right? Like
the other thing is, how were they in the struggle points? But like, I've known Russell since the beginning. Like, we used to like regularly hang out, and we cross promoted each other's stuff early on. Mark Joyner was a mutual significant mentor to us both. I remember when Russell was selling his potato gun secrets ebook, like back in the day. And it is tricky because not only do you not know really where people are at when things really suck, but now things really suck too, but nobody wants to see that, really. Like, people do appreciate honesty and vulnerability and transparency to a certain degree, but like, when you're a guru, you spotlight the good parts of your life. You don't generally spotlight the things that are crashing and burning.
And I get that, but I mean, the thing is, it's like, we all have to realize, like, we're all human. We all went through struggles, right?
Also true.
And the thing is, what I kind of like want to highlight that is that in those deepest struggles is where your greatest achievement came. Right. And that's really what I want to highlight. And like, especially when it comes to marketing, like, you could have a proprietary method or strategy, but you didn't just like, oh my God, I got that idea, and like, let me put it together. You had to go through iterations. You had to go through problems. You probably were suffering in your business at that time. You probably I was actually talking to somebody else the other day. They got a letter from the IRS, and the check ended up being bigger than what it was. And you had to go, and then you were like, man, maybe if I do it this way instead. And then that's what catapulted you to, to ultimate success. So that's what I'm kind of like looking at in that aspect, right? It's like, were their greatest struggles that led them to the biggest wins in their life.
That's awesome. I mean, and that's, if you can handle those big struggles and make it through and learn from them, they often do turn into the biggest wins. That's cool. Now, so we spoke briefly last night, and you mentioned something very quickly, right? When I asked what you were working on right now, and I think what you said was that you're helping people in some way, shape, or form, building communities and school groups. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so that's something that I've been tossing around with like quite a few people right now. I'm getting the feedback from a lot of people in the struggles of just the communities, and like, again, going back to men's physique and everything like that, and really diving into like a few things and start realizing that communities is where it's at. During that time of like COVID and 2022, 2021. I'm sorry, 2020, 2021, I started getting heavily into Facebook groups and start learning about that. And I'm like, man, this is a gold mine in order to do it. And I've never lost that. Like, even to the point, like when I was working for Grant, the community team was like, hey, we need help. And the social media guy at the time, his name Saad, was like, hey, Eddy, you've done groups before, right? I'm like, yeah, I've done groups. He's like, hey, can you jump into this meeting? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I gave him all the tactics, all the tricks, and everything like that. They literally 10x their engagement like within a week.
Nice.
So me talking with a few people, and I have my own group, but I've started seeing a dwindle in Facebook groups. Like, the engagement's not there anymore, especially after
Facebook groups that are run by marketers are dwindling. Facebook groups that are not run by marketers are still alive and well. But
so they're suppressing our stuff.
The ones that are basically just being drained, just like being hit hard, like with hard marketing tactics all the time. Those groups are definitely dying off.
So and like, I've been noticing that, especially once they changed the API, like you couldn't stream directly into.
That screwed everything up.
And I was running a group for a little while, and I saw the numbers, like it dwindled off when that happened. Like, we weren't making the same numbers before. So given my fact, like, I've talked to a lot of high ticket coaches, I see where they're kind of struggling. High tickets just becoming so much more difficult to sell nowadays.
Right. No, it's harder to get strategy session calls booked. It's harder to get people to show up.
Yeah.
and then they already know the price point that's coming, and they're actively trying to get as much information on the call and avoid the purchase. I've experienced this. I've watched it happen.
Yeah. So one of the tactics that I learned through the 4 companies that I worked with was, do a nurture and convert, like have a self-liquidating offer first.
Yep.
Once they purchase a self-liquidating offer, then you retarget them with a video sales letter funnel. And that worked great for Brandon Turner. That worked great for HO Pro Tools. And it was gangbusters. So, hearing all these people, having to struggle with high ticket, having to struggle with just building a community now, especially on Facebook. One of the things that I'm, going to probably be working on in the next few days and the next few weeks is building a low ticket to community kind of funnel. So
exactly.
have a low ticket thing, 27, 37, 47,
right.
Have a nice upsell. But then the next page is like, hey, I'm going to sell you my coaching inside my school community group. They purchase that, and they're going to be receiving the course and the coaching inside the school group.
Right.
And that's something that if we already see that low tickets really, really working right now, I mean, a lot of high ticket coaches are switching to that anyways right now.
Right.
That's their move. What is it to say, like, we can't do a monthly recurring revenue on a coaching program with a low ticket offer? So that's some.
No. I mean, that's not. There's nothing new, but the way it's being done now is new. It's an old methodology that's cycling back.
Correct.
Yeah. So this is cool because this is in complete alignment with where my head is at right now. So go on a little bit. Is there more to fill in?
Yeah. So basically what I'm going to be doing is, like what I said, I'm wanting to move into the coaching arena, and I want to be able to move into that arena. And that's probably what I'm going to be focusing on, is since I do have a passion for communities and for groups, is helping, just anybody. It doesn't even have to be high ticket coaches, but just anybody, make a low ticket offer and then get people into their school group.
Right.
And their school group could be, hey, I could teach you how to play guitar. I could teach you how to do salsa dancing. It doesn't really matter. Right. But that's probably going to be the next move that I'm going to be working on. And I'm already going to be working on 2 of those funnels for a couple of my high ticket friends.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be building the course
high ticket friends.
Yeah, my high ticket.
I have some high ticket friends.
Yeah, I got some high ticket friends. Yeah, they're Louis Vuitton and Prada and all that stuff. So, so yeah, I'm going to be building the course as I'm building their funnels and everything like that. And I'm probably going to be launching mine pretty soon. But again, just trying to build that community and everything like that, so that they know that I'm more of that I'm doing that as well.
Dude, so a few things on this, right? One is, okay, so you're familiar with Nothing Held Back and Alan Soltanic and the whole automatic clients model and all that. Yeah. So school is obviously not the only platform to build a community on, but I think it is the best platform right now for most people to build communities on, especially because I don't normally jump on this, but it's trending, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's like people are customers are gravitating towards school groups because it's cool, right? Yeah. And like every platform, they come and they go. And who knows, maybe Facebook groups are going to have a revival. That'd be great. But what I've seen is that, pre-internet, we had direct mail, right? And and so I just realized this on a drive last night. Like after a run, I had a kind of a evolution of marketing realization that involves community that was really interesting. So pre-internet back in the day, even pre-TV. You could even say pre-radio, probably. I don't know. With the direct mail, right? You had people sending sales letters in the mail. You read the sales letter. You'd want to buy the product, and you send back the order form with a check or cash in the mail, right? That was the original, and that's a very one-way communication, right? It's you receive a letter with an order form. You either respond to it or not. That's why it's called direct response, right? And then direct response radio became a thing where there'd be long form radio commercials that were measured. And again, it's a one-way broadcast. Okay, it's the commercial or the person speaking, blah, puking all over you, and then a percentage of people respond, right? And then infomercials, direct response television, so late night infomercials, right? I bought, several.
Really?
I bought Mega Memory from Kevin Trudeau. I bought Don the Priest Tiny Classified ads back in the day when I was like in high school, I think, trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
But still, it's a one-way communication. Okay, it's the TV blaring at you in the middle of the night,
Correct.
trying to get you to buy something. Okay, and enter internet. Okay, now it's email. So now people are getting on email lists, and we're blasting emails to them. Okay, we're building giant email lists of hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, and we're basically, hopefully, ethically spamming. Like they hopefully they intentionally joined your list. But whether there was like in the early days of just like blatant spam, or later on where people were joining email lists on purpose to get messages, it's still mostly a one-way communication. We blast the message out. People click on it, they read our sales letter, and they buy it or they don't buy it. And this is in the early 2000s, like when like you'd buy your $47 ebook or not. But it's a one-way communication, right?
Yeah.
But then people can respond to the email. They can respond in a way other than buying. So it becomes a two-way communication in the early days of internet marketing. It starts to, but it's still primarily a one-way communication. I read a creative subject line. I read a creative and effective email. I blast it out. I get as much attention as possible. People click and some of them buy. One way, I'm in control. If I have a big list and I'm interesting and I tell people what to do clearly enough, they'll give me a bunch of money. And that was true. Okay. It totally worked for a long time. And then sales letters got old. People were like, oh, these sales letters, and teleseminars came in for quite a few years. I made millions of dollars with teleseminars on conference lines, but then webinars came in. And now webinars, VSLs were mixed in there too, but webinars now became interesting because they became very interactive. Okay, it was no longer just a one-way communication. It was a live event that was happening, right?
And the communications are happening back and forth with the comments.
And sometimes everybody could see all those communications. You know what I mean? So it's no longer the marketers shouting at the audience. Now you have to listen more, right? It's a different experience. And so webinars became live, and they became very effective for a very long time. But then marketers got lazy because they wanted to make money and they wanted to automate it, but they didn't want to have that same level of human connection. And so they automated their webinars. And so enter the age of automated webinars and evergreen webinars. And for a time, everybody made bank with automated webinars because nobody realized they were automated.
Yeah.
Once everybody realized they were automated, they felt fooled. And automated webinars started dying. Now, they're working better again now, but automated webinars started dying for quite a while because people didn't like being fooled, right?
Yeah.
And so then webinar attendance started declining and leveling out at the 20 to 30% range. And like everybody's trying to get more people to attend webinars, but they're not. So you have to make more sophisticated webinar funnels with upsells and everything, front ends, back ends, low ticket, high ticket. You're building into a very sophisticated webinar funnel to get a webinar to make as much money as they used to, right? Because of the low attendance. And so, and that's been like stable for a while. And then in the background, Facebook groups started popping.
Yep.
Right. And I think what has happened is that Facebook groups and other community platforms started being created, like Mighty Networks, like Circle, like School, right? More recently. And what I think is happening is that as the internet is progressing and as technology and AI, though I love AI, is getting in between human connection, I think that people are becoming more emotionally starved for real human interaction.
I agree with you on that.
Like on a soul level.
Yeah.
Right? Like people actually don't want to spend all their time interacting with robots, right? And being shouted at,
I
right?
see it. I see it all the time. Like, oh yeah, I know that this message was an AI bot or whatever. Like,
Even when it's a human message.
yeah, I get that all the time. Is this an AI bot?
Dude, I text my customers personally, and they all think I'm a robot. Like I have to convince them that I'm a human.
Yeah,
So what happened is, I think at like in our hearts, we want to be more connected with each other, and as technology is allowing us to do all sorts of cool things, it's also creating more of a feeling of loneliness, isolation, disconnection. As we're all sitting at home alone, hovering over our computers, which I've been doing for 20 years, but like that was dramatically accelerated. You know, the work from home world blew sky high from COVID. You know what I mean?
exactly.
So many
Yeah,
people are working from home and literally are spending their day alone when they've spent their entire adult life working in an office around humans. And so there's this loneliness that, or this sense of disconnection, I think that people are feeling. So I think
agree.
that community is the currency. Like community is the connection, and the different platforms that are being built in order to help communities connect more deeply and more frequently in an authentic way, I think are starting to rise more. And that's been happening. It was happening with Facebook groups, and then Facebook did their stupid thing that they always do with all their stuff that's working, which is they suppress it,
they break
and
it
dies. But school, I've been learning a lot about school in the last couple of months, and I'm launching some school groups right now, and am really learning the whole school ascension process and the free group and the paid group, and like I've been studying, you know, all the guys that are doing this, and most of them are like 15 years younger than me, you know, sometimes more, and so I'm like learning from a bunch of from a younger generation in school, which is kind of cool. But what I'm seeing, so what I would suggest to you do is that as you build your personal brand, don't make the mistake of making it all about you. Instead, focus on creating a community about the community that you happen to be the founder of.
And you know what, like I've actually been thinking that, right? Because like I go back to like my previous success that I had with Mess Physique News, that like I was not the face, but I was able to build that to be like to the point that people, oh my God, they wanted to be on there, right? So and I almost feel like a lot of times when I do my own brand, it's not as powerful as like if I were to do something that doesn't have my face on it.
People never believe you when you're talking about how awesome you are. People believe you when you're talking about how awesome somebody else is. Right. And so that's kind of what we're doing with the Tellman and Fellman Show. Like my original intent, like when we started this thing, was that, you know, I was a internet marketing guru for about a decade. And then I got tired of the industry in 2008, 2009, and I stopped selling internet marketing stuff, and I just switched into the personal development mode. And for 13 years, I primarily have been selling money mindset hypnosis stuff, because I got just super tired of all the hype and the BS and the blah, blah, blah of internet marketing land. The problem was that I really like hanging out with internet marketers, and they're much more competitive. They're more creative with their entrepreneurial strategy and all these types of things than the personal development crowd. So in terms of my peers, I really like the marketing crew. And so we started Tellman and Fellman to start by interviewing all of our old OG marketing friends who've been in the game for 20 years and are still doing cool stuff. And what's happened is that we've reconnected with a whole bunch of people, and we've reconnected a bunch of people to people they used to be friends with in the process. And we've been telling all these stories about like joint ventures we've done together and strategic partnerships. And remember back in the day when blah, blah, blah. And it's cool. And what's happening is the community is starting to emerge. And so as I've been thinking about starting my first few school groups, I've been thinking about how to like the free communities to create first, and what the focus should be. You know, is it the focus on the Tellman and Fellman Show? Is the focus on the topic at hand? Is the focus on the community itself? And I'm trying to figure out how to make it more about the community itself, right? So yeah, I really think that connect, like, people will find over time, if you start a community and you're a committed, dedicated leader to the community, and you give that community like attention and love, the community is going to give it back to you tenfold. But like you have to be in it for the community, not for yourself.
Yep. Yeah, I totally get you, because it's funny. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was actually reassessing everything, right? Like like seeing where I need to be planted in everything that I'm doing. And I don't know if you heard this book, Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick David.
I don't know that book. No.
It's a great business book, but in the first, he has 5 moves in that book, and the first move is just trying to reevaluate who you are as a person, where you want to go.
Right.
And he had a questionnaire on there. It's like 25 questions, and it really dives in deep. And he was like, what 90-day period did you feel that you had the most success? That was like one question. And then another question was, what do you feel is you're most passionate about? And both those questions led me back to the time that I was with Men's Physique News, because I'm like, I'm a lot of times, like what you said, you have to find that passion in you in order to do things, right? And I was like, man,
I do. Some people claim they don't have to have that, but if I'm not passionate about it, it doesn't get any of my attention.
Exactly. And so I revert back. I'm like, where was I really passionate? Well, it was the time that I was doing bodybuilding and running that. And the reason why I was so passionate about it is because I was connecting with so many different people, so many different walks of life, just the community that was built from that. And I'm like, man, I think that would be a great move to where I want to go and follow that passion again and start building communities and start doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like what I said a little bit earlier, like, I fell in love with groups. Like I fell in love with Facebook groups. I knew that they were that. So like, I think like all of that's like, starting to come together, and why I want to be able to start helping, people with that particular part, and like getting people into their communities and stuff like that.
Yeah, dude, we should talk more after the interview. Maybe there's a cool way to work together or do something.
Yeah, that would be absolutely awesome. I would love that, in fact.
It could be awesome. It could be terrible, but it also could be yeah, cool. Well, Eddy, this has been great. We're an hour and 17 in, and I know we both have a lot of stuff to do today. I certainly do, but like, this has been a really cool show and a really cool episode. So guys, if you like Eddy and you want to hire him or have him give you a audit of your business, really zoom out and help you spot some key areas that you can improve your marketing strategy and your sales flow and your effectiveness of your funnel or your multi-funnel lineup, as the case may be. Calendly.com/deemmarketing/audit. Go check it out and book an audit call with Eddy. And yeah, Eddy, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up today?
No, man, I think we covered a lot of ground today, man. I actually really enjoyed the show today and like what we discussed. And yeah, man, if you guys want me to be back for a part 2 and I actually get to talk with Harris, that would be awesome.
Cool. Rock and roll. I really appreciate it. I hope your podcast is a raging success.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that too.
Awesome. Rock and roll. Guys, if you want to join our list at tellmanandfellman.com, you will get a link to our Google Doc with all of the previous episodes, and you'll get updates on all of our upcoming episodes of the Tellman and Fellman Show. So go to tellmanandfellman.com to opt in, join the list, and get access to all the episodes. You're going to love it. And I appreciate you all for being here. And it's Friday, so we won't see you again until Monday. So thank you again, Eddy. This was great. And thank you, everybody, for watching today.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Man. We'll see you guys later.